So, Dad, like North Carolina had a rough weekend. Lost to Purdue by 9 on Saturday. Lost to Tennessee by 17 on Sunday. So they're now 3-2. I got them out of the top 25 and 1. They're down to 55th at KenPom. You saw them in person on Saturday. You concerned about them?
To a certain extent, yes. And I watched even a decent portion of their loss on Sunday as well. Here, UNC right now, as we speak on Monday morning, allowing 83.8 points per game. And then they're rebounding. They're tied for 144th best in the nation. This is just per game, 38.4 per game. You can look right now on YouTube and you can see Ncaa has brought up UNC's KenPom page. And so here's the deal. They got a scare from Brown, withstood it. You saw them in person against Charleston on the road, withstood it. They just, okay, they were at the mercy of Purdue, which could prove to be a top 2, top 3 team in the country on a neutral. Okay, fair enough. The Tennessee one, now I thought Tennessee was going to be able to come back. I thought Tennessee was going to win this game. I didn't think it'd win it the way it did. I mean, they didn't have Josiah Jordan-James, who was held out because of illness, and Kennedy Chandler wound up playing beautifully. I mean, Tennessee had a really nice bounce back performance, and if you're a Vols fan, that's exactly what you want to see. But if you're Carolina, a little bit of an but I mean, can they fix defensively what they need to fix? Because they're not going to play the bigs. Hubert's probably not going to play the bigs the way that Roy Williams did. But in doing that, might they be a worse defensive team? And does this team have the capability to do what Purdue's going to do? Try and outscore dudes. Try and crack 90 more nights than not. I don't know. We'll see. Baycott looks better. RJ Davis is the player. I've seen Carolina play 4 times this season, and the guy who seems most reliable is a guy that very few people were talking about. It's not Leaky Black. All due respect to Leaky. I also did not, by the way, no selfie with Leaky. It's hard to.
He's evasive,
and then you lose. It's not an easy ask. So, so that's your B, my B. Didn't make it happen. Evades us. But yeah. Defensively, I do have questions about Carolina, and I don't know how much of this is fixable. They have an interesting ceiling. I think this is a quality team. Don't want to overreact too much. We're just 5 games into the season. But 2 teams came out of the weekend with a 3-2 record. Villanova, but Villanova lost once because its other loss was at UCLA. So
yeah, I'm not worried about Villanova at all.
I'm a little worried about Villanova because of their lack of depth. Only, I don't know. We'll see. You're not worried at all about Villanova?
Look at me. Look at my face. Do I look worried?
I am looking at you.
I'm not worried about Villanova at all. They're going to be like whatever your concerns might be about Villanova might be the thing that prevents them from winning Jay's 3rd national title. There's nothing that's going to prevent them from being really, really good and hanging around the top 10 of the sport all season. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fair enough. I will say this. Carolina has allowed 88 points the past 4 games. Teams are shooting extremely well from beyond the arc against them. I think, what was it? Purdue and Tennessee shot 44% from 3, and they were better than 55% from the field. Defensively, there are issues. So, yes, I have more concerns about Carolina, but I didn't think Carolina was going to be as good as Villanova heading into the season. We'll see how they bounce back. I did talk to Hubert after the Saturday loss and I basically asked him, at this point, not knowing what was going to obviously happen on Sunday, you've had these games against quality teams and you've had 2 and you'll have your 3rd away from home. For you in this spot as a head coach and with this team and these pieces, is this a benefit? A lot of coaches will say it is a benefit, but with where you are right now, do you think it will actually wind up paying off, at some point down the road, be it 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months or whatever? And he said, venue doesn't actually mean anything to me at this point. It's the teams we're playing, and I think so. But he then went into a little bit of a monologue on how far they had to go defensively. And it was just interesting to reflect back on that comment and then see just how much they did not have it at all on Sunday against Tennessee. That was troublesome. And whereas the Tar Heels were ranked going into the season, you just cannot make the case, with all due respect to Seth Davis, who still made the case and put him in his top 25. I'd have you poll attack him if that was still a thing you did, but it is not. You cannot make the case that North Carolina is a top 25 team right now.
No, the record's not there and the computer numbers aren't there. Like sometimes you can, like Michigan, you mentioned teams that are 3-2. Michigan's 3-2, and we'll get to them. But if you wanted to keep Michigan ranked, you could, because I've got Seton Hall ranked now and I've got Arizona ranked now. So if you wanted to keep Michigan in there, you'd say, okay, the only 2 losses are to teams I have in the top 20, and they've still got strong computer numbers. I'm going to continue to rank Michigan. I didn't. I dropped them out. But I think they're still 6th at KenPom. There's no case that can be made for North Carolina right now. I mean, they struggle with Brown, struggle with Charleston, lost to Purdue, got blown out by Tennessee, and they're like 55th at KenPom now. Like, there's no case to make for North Carolina right now. Like, their projected KenPom record at this moment is 17-14 overall, 10-10 in the ACC. And there's a lot of troubling numbers there. The most obvious one, the one that gets talked about a lot, is they're 131st in adjusted defensive efficiency. They cannot stop anybody from scoring. And this was true. I guess Charleston didn't shoot a great percentage, but Charleston scored a lot of points on them. But I'll give credit to Steve Lapis, the former Villanova coach who worked the game with me in Charleston. And this was pregame. He was like, this could get tricky for them because they don't stop anybody. Like, Lap had watched, in prep, because he was the color analyst, had watched, everything that had happened up to that moment. He was like, they do not guard at all. And that is showing up in the numbers. So that's the most obvious thing people reference. The less obvious thing that I've heard other people mention, but it's like a real thing. Do you see their offensive rebounding percentage?
I didn't.
It's 25.1, which ranks 254th nationally. This is North Carolina. They are usually, if not the best offensive rebounding team in America, one of the best offensive rebounding teams in America. Like last year, offensive rebounding percentage, according to KenPom, 40.9, number 1 in the country. They've been top 20 in that category 8 straight seasons. Right now, 254th. And that is a direct byproduct of Hubert deciding that he wants to emphasize shooting over playing 2 traditional bigs. Like, he wants shooting and he wants spacing. And that's why it's either Dawson Garcia or Brady Manick playing the 4, because they're 4s that can step away and take shots. I looked this up the other day. Last year, Garrison Brooks played the most minutes at the 4 for North Carolina. They were playing 2 traditional bigs, Baycott in the middle, Garrison Brooks at the 4. He took, I think, 8 threes all season. Before Saturday, I haven't updated it. I got just writing a Hubert Davis column for Saturday morning. Brady Manick was averaging 5 threes a game. Last year's 4 took 8 all season. It's a wild difference up in approach. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's very different. And one of the things they give up is offensive rebounding. And it's funny because on, I guess, last Tuesday morning, we had a Zoom call with Hubert for about 15 minutes or so. And we, Lap actually asked him, like, are you willing to sacrifice some of the offensive rebounding, for shooting? The implication being, because that's what you're doing. And Hubert was like, no. We want to lead the nation in offensive rebounding, but we also want to have shooting. So I'm not making any excuses for my guys or allowing them to have excuses. We still have to crash the offensive glass, but they're not doing it. This is as bad as they've ever been. And like you said, it's very early, but they're good offensively. They're not elite. They're terrible defensively, and they're not getting second chance opportunities the way they normally do. There's enough talent to get it turned around. Like, I like the roster if you just look at the roster, but right now they're not a very good team.